Welcome to News Briefs. Today is Monday, June 30, 2025. We start in Washington.
Yes, seems like there's quite a bit of tension building in the Senate
Yeah.
over a big Republican bill.
Ah, okay. That tax and spending package we've been hearing about.
Exactly, it's a really important one. And they're trying, it seems, to push it through before the July 4th recess.
Right. Always pressure before a break. So what are the details looking like?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of pressure, and some numbers are already circulating. The Congressional Budget Office, the CBO,
The nonpartisan one?
that's the one. They estimate this bill could add something like $3.3 trillion to the debt.
3.3 trillion. Wow. Over how long?
Over 10 years, that's their projection.
That's quite a substantial number.
It really is a lot. And that's not all. They also estimate that almost 12 million people, 11.8 million is the specific figure, could lose their health insurance by 2034 because of it.
12 million people. Wow. So what's the Republican response to those figures? I mean, those are pretty stark numbers from the CBO.
Well, as you might expect, they dispute those figures. They're using a different kind of accounting, you see. An alternative method.
Dynamic scoring, maybe?
Could be, yeah. They argue it'll spur growth that offsets costs. So let's just say there's significant internal division about what the real impact would be, both fiscally and, well, socially, too.
I see. Okay, let's change gears a bit. Immigration sounds like there's news on that front as well.
That's right. Reports are saying the Trump administration has actually resumed raids in certain workplaces.
Really? Do we know which sectors are being targeted?
Mainly agriculture and hospitality, it seems. And this is already causing some, well, noticeable economic disruptions, especially hearing reports out of places like Los Angeles.
And is that the only immigration news? Feels like there's usually more.
No, not at all. It sounds like they're tightening controls for student visas, too. Apparently now they're even checking social media profiles as part of the process.
Seriously. Checking social media for student visas.
Yes. And it's also apparently getting harder to obtain medical extensions for the citizenship exam. And there's even talk they're evaluating expanding the travel ban list, potentially adding another 36 countries.
36 more countries. Wow. Okay. Let's pivot to the economy. How are things looking there? Seems like we're getting some mixed signals lately.
Totally. Yeah, definitely mixed signals. On the one hand, you've got PCE inflation. That's the measure the Federal Reserve really watches closely.
Yeah, personal consumption expenditures.
Exactly. That rose to 2.3% year over year in May. So inflation's still, present. But the Fed seems to be remaining cautious. They're worried about the potential impact of tariffs, you see, how that might affect prices.
Right. Tariffs are a big question mark. And this week, we're expecting the big employment data, aren't we?
Exactly. The June jobs report. The expectation, I think, is for unemployment to hold steady at 4.3%.
Okay. But didn't consumer confidence take a hit?
Yes, it did. It dropped down to 93 in June. And that's a level that, historically has sometimes raised recessionary flags or at least concerns.
Huh. But the stock market did pretty well in June, didn't it?
Yes, that's the contradiction. That's what's striking. The S&P 500 actually climbed 4% last month. So, like you said, very mixed signals.
Definitely something to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to science and technology. Always some interesting developments there.
Yes, always. There was actually a really important demonstration in quantum computing recently. They achieved something they're calling exponential acceleration.
Exponential acceleration.
Yeah.
Sounds powerful.
Yeah.
What does that mean in simple terms?
Basically, it means these quantum machines could potentially solve certain types of problems vastly, vastly faster than even our best classical computers today. It's seen as a key advance for the field.
That's fascinating stuff. Anything else, maybe from space?
Yes. The James Webb Space Telescope continues to, well, just wow everyone. It delivered these incredible images, apparently revealing how galaxies were forming just 10 million years after the Big Bang. It's pretty impressive.
Incredible time frame. Back here on Earth, anything new in biology or medicine?
Yeah, researchers identified an enzyme called ID1. And they think it could be a new therapeutic target for treating heart disease and diabetes.
Ah, so a new potential pathway for treatment.
Exactly. Really important development. And shifting slightly, related to health but environmental wildfire smoke. Any updates there?
Oh, yeah, that's been such a big issue.
It has. And a Harvard study confirmed something quite concerning. The smoke apparently leaves behind toxic metals. And it can also alter the immune system. So it's not just the immediate nuisance of the smoke you see. There are deeper health implications.
What a topic. And speaking health, but from a different angle, vaccine hesitancy. What's the latest thinking on that?
Well, look, a WHO study, the World Health Organization, they did some research in Kazakhstan and found something interesting. It seems that the main driver of reluctance isn't so much religion, as some might
Oh,
assume.
really? So what is it then?
It's more about a distrust in the healthcare system itself.
Ah, understood. So it's systemic trust issues. And what about more locally in the United States? Any community health initiatives catching the eye?
Yes, actually. For example, the University of Virginia Cancer Center just launched a grant program. They're offering financial support up to $10,000
Okay, for what kinds of projects?
for local health projects in Virginia and West Virginia. And an interesting detail is that they specifically mention religious institutions can participate, can apply for these funds.
That's interesting, involving different community pillars. Okay, let's move beyond the U.S. now to the international stage. There's word of a truce between Iran and Israel, but it sounds fragile.
Very fragile, yes. It's technically been in effect since June 24th, but that only came after 12 days of really intense direct conflict between them.
Right, that escalated quickly. When did that fighting start?
It kicked off around June 13th. It seems it began with Israeli attacks targeting Iranian nuclear sites, and then the response was, well, it led to unprecedented direct attacks from both sides. Missile exchanges, drone attacks.
Do we have any sense of the scale of those attacks?
We do, based on what both sides are saying. Israel says it used more than 200 aircraft against about 100 targets in Iran. Iran, for its part, reportedly launched almost 1,000 missiles and drones toward Israel. Just crazy numbers.
Terrible. The human consequences must have been significant.
Extremely high. Reports mention around 610 Iranian deaths and over 4,700 wounded. On the Israeli side, numbers are lower but still significant, 28 dead and more than 3,200 wounded.
And yet both sides seem to be claiming they achieved their objectives.
Right, both are claiming victory,
Yeah.
essentially. But Iran has also stated that this whole episode makes them more determined than ever to continue with their nuclear program. So, yeah, very complicated situation.
Indeed. And meanwhile, in Ukraine, the situation there remains incredibly difficult, doesn't it?
Yes, very difficult. Russian forces seem to be consolidating their advances in the east and the north. Specifically mentioned are areas around Donetsk, Kharkiv, and Sumy.
And didn't they open another front recently?
Exactly, yes. They reportedly reopened a front in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The thinking seems to be that this is a strategy to try and disperse Ukrainian forces, stretch their resources thin.
And continuing the long-range attacks, too, I assume.
Oh, yes. Right. Let's completely shift gears now. Sports. What happened in Formula One over the weekend?
Yes, the Austrian Grand Prix.
Absolute dominance by McLaren yesterday. On Sunday, Lando Norris took the win, and his teammate Oscar Piastri came in second. McLaren won too.
Nice for them. And how does that shake up the championship standings?
Well, with that result, Piastri actually moves into the lead in the Drivers' World Championship. He's got 216 points now. Norris is right behind him with 201. And McLaren, well, they're comfortably leading the Constructors' Championship with 417 points.
Big weekend for McLaren, then. Were there any big fights, too, UFC or boxing?
Yes, Saturday was busy. At UFC 317, Ilia Topuria scored a big knockout against Charles Oliveira. First-round KO. He's the new lightweight champion.
Wow, decisive. And boxing.
Also on Saturday, Jake Paul fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Paul won by unanimous decision.
Okay. And something about football, soccer. The Club World Cup is happening in the U.S.
Exactly. Yesterday, Sunday, PSG delivered a pretty big thrashing to Inter Miami, won 4-0.
Oof. Tough result for Messi and company there.
Yes. And in the other match, Bayern Munich beat Flamengo 4-2. And there's more action today. Monday, Inter Milan is playing Fluminense, and then Manchester City takes on Al Hilal.
Right, lots going on there. Okay, to wrap things up, what's new in the world of cinema? Any big releases?
Yeah, this past weekend saw two big blockbusters premiere. There was M3GN 2.0, the sequel to that creepy doll movie.
Yeah, I remember the first one.
And also F1, the movie, that film starring Brad Pitt about Formula One racing.
Okay, and looking back at June overall for movie releases, what was the trend?
It was really heavily marked by sequels and established franchises, honestly.
Like what?
Well, you had Ballerina, which is a spinoff from the John Wick universe. There was the live-action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon. And 28 years later, the follow-up to those zombie films.
So it really seems like Hollywood is playing it safe right now, doesn't it?
It definitely feels like they're betting big on what's already known, on established intellectual properties. Maybe, setting aside some potentially more original stories like Pixar's Elio, for example.